All right, ladies and gentlemen, we should be live. Yes. Let's see if this.
I've been asked to reply on behalf of my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister.
And its employees have worked
Not sure why the B team are up, but you know,
tirelessly
we move.
to successfully run the National Lottery for decades. They play an important role in communities across the UK, many local projects and good causes, including in my constituency. So whilst I obviously declare an interest in the Gambling Commission's decision yesterday not to appoint the licence to Camelot, I do wonder, given the current situation in Ukraine...
Camelot are a big gambling agency, I think. I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure they run a lot of the gambling in the UK. Oh, shit. Oops, sorry, language. I need to drop my phone, sorry.
If my right honourable friend considered it appropriate that the next licensee of the operator of the National Lottery is known to have a joint venture with Gazprom.
Gazprom!
Can I thank my honourable friend and just say what an incredible job the National Lottery has done, delivering £45 billion to good causes. He's right, the fourth licence...
Oh, that's why there was a change then. Right, didn't know that. That's interesting.
...ensure operator profits are better aligned with returns to good causes. Can I just also say on the specific points he makes, I understand that Alwyn's owner, Mr. Komarov, who's long criticised the Putin regime, is in discussions with the Czech Republic government regarding the joint venture with Gazprom and removing its involvement.
We now come to the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, Angela Rayner.
Jeez, the B team are up. Let's see what the B team have got.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I also welcome Ukrainian MPs to this House today? And Mr. Speaker, can I start by wholeheartedly...
The sea was closed, Dave Jones. The sea was closed.
...welcoming the positive steps towards returning Nazardine Zaghari-Ratcliffe and Anusha Ashuri to the UK.
That's big news. I'll cover that at some point during the week. Really good for herself and her family, and I'm not familiar with the other person's case, but this is really, really good news.
I'm sure members across the House want to show their support for their families and them. I know the Minister would agree that this devastating situation must never be repeated, and other British nationals still trapped in Iran need to be brought home. So will the Minister commit to a review of these cases to understand what more could have been done by the British government to secure releases, and whether the lazy comments of the Prime Minister worsened the situation?
Okay, so that's not going to happen, first of all. Second of all, this is predominantly down to the Iranian government. I don't know how many other British nationals there are there. Yeah, you know, especially with Liz Truss being Foreign Secretary, I don't know how well this is going to go, given her kind of saber-rattly approach. It is called blackmail.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I first of all say that I can't yet confirm the reports we've seen in the media, but of course it...
How the hell have Reuters found this out before the British government? It's actually wild. Because I've seen tweets that are saying she's on her way back. So how the hell have Reuters got a scoop before the government have? That's wild.
Feels like positive signs, and of course no one wants more than me, but I'm sure all members of the House, to see Nazanin, but also all of the...
I think her husband and her kid want to see her more than you do, mate.
...arbitrarily detained nationals...
And her MP.
...with their loved ones. Yeah. I can tell the Honourable Lady, having worked for 2 years with the concerted diplomatic effort led by the Prime Minister, that we have done...
All right, guys, let's not comment about people's... appearances and dress sense, okay? Let's leave it out.
Absolutely everything that we can. She shouldn't give succor to the despotic regime that detained our nationals in Iran or around the world by suggesting it's anyone else's responsibility other than theirs.
I mean, okay, they did so to get money off the UK because we owed them money for a start. Secondly, they used Boris Johnson's own words against her by saying that Boris Johnson said she was there to teach journalism. And then the Iranian government jumped on that. You know, they didn't need much of a reason to do so, but you gave them more justification for doing so. So let's be real here, it's because Johnson didn't read his notes.
Angela Rayner.
Mr. Speaker, it's exactly for that reason that I asked for the review, that it's important to learn from our mistakes so we don't end up with other innocent families facing this ordeal again. So I hope the Minister will consider my comments. Mr.
All right. Again, if we keep commenting about her appearance and what she did previously, I'm going to start muting people. Like, I will drop the iron fist quicker than Stalin did. It's last chance, guys. Honestly, last chance.
Speaker, I'd like to thank all of the people who have been working tirelessly to bring British nationals home from Iran, our diplomatic staff and our world-leading British intelligence agencies. The role of the British intelligence today is critical in the face of Putin's aggression. The Deputy Prime Minister oversaw our foreign intelligence services as Foreign Secretary. So can he confirm if at any time he overruled or ignored direct advice from the British security services?
Deputy Prime Minister.
Can I say to the Honourable Lady, what she suggests is nonsense. She's talking about the House of Lords Appointments Commission. They have a vetting process. I have never overruled intelligence advice.
Sorry, guys,
and
my
I
comment section there. But it's not
comment on the details of it.
LBCs.
What I would say and would agree with her on the strength, the agility of the British diplomatic service.
Okay, I got distracted there. Let's go back. Sorry about that. Let's see what she had to say. I thought that was my comment section.
I'd like to thank all of the people who have been working tirelessly to bring British nationals home from Iran, our diplomatic staff and our world-leading
only tea in Robinson's
British intelligence agencies. The role of the British intelligence today is critical in the face of Putin's aggression. The Deputy Prime Minister oversaw our foreign intelligence services as Foreign Secretary. So can he confirm if at any time he overruled or ignored direct advice from the British security services?
Great question there. If he overruled or ignored any advice from British security services, considering all the stuff about Lebedev that's come out more recently. So this is going to be an interesting answer.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Can I say to the Honourable Lady, what she suggests is nonsense. She's talking about the House of Lords Appointments Commission. They have a vetting process. I have never overruled intelligence advice, and I wouldn't comment on the details of it. What I would say and would agree with her on the strength, the agility of the British diplomatic service, which time and time again are the unsung heroes in returning British nationals, often less celebrated cases than this. But I think now is a great opportunity to recognise the heroic work they do.
This is a rubbish line of questioning, given the cost of living crisis, among other things. She even mentioned the British debt and how we were held to, like, essentially, Iran, use that to use British nationals to get the money from us, when Britain shouldn't be a country that doesn't pay off its debt. They paid to buy tanks off us. We didn't deliver the tanks, and then we kept the money. Like, that's what happened. And then they used British nationals, as hostages essentially, to get the money back off us. Why are we a country that doesn't pay off their debts? It doesn't make sense.
Lorena.
Absolutely, I agree with the Minister regarding his
why are you going down this line of questioning? This is why you're the B team.
Comments on their heroic work. The Right Honourable Member was Foreign Secretary on the 17th of March 2020, when British intelligence reportedly warned against the granting of peerage to the Prime Minister's close friend and now Lord Lebedev of Hampton and Siberia.
Hampton and Siberia. Is she making a joke there? I don't know if she's trying to be funny.
48 hours later, the Prime Minister visited Lebedev at his home in London. Details of that meeting have never been released.
That's really important, actually, because if I can't, I don't know if he would have been Prime Minister at the time, but you're not allowed to discuss government business without someone being present there, or you'd have to give the details of it. So it's very suspicious.
July 2020. Lebedev's appointment as peer was announced. So can he tell the House what changed between the security warning and the appointment?
That's a good line of questioning. That's a good line there. She gave details very specific about what happened, about the alleged warnings, and how they were apparently ignored by Boris Johnson. Let's see what the King of the B team comes out with. He's going to deny it, isn't he?
Minister.
Sorry, the Honourable Lady knows full well all individuals nominated for a peerage are done so in recognition of what their contribution is to society. And
what, Lord Lebedev of Hampshire and Siberia? What? That's great. Oh, I love it.
And I should say, that includes those of Russian origin who contribute brilliantly to our nation, many of whom in this country are critics of the Putin regime.
I mean, Lebedev isn't, though. From what I remember reading, he was very supportive of the actions in Crimea, from what I remember at least. So, you know, that's a big joke point there.
Live peerages are vetted by the House of Lords Appointments Commission for matters of probity, and frankly, I think she should know better.
Well, frankly, I think she should know better. Me. I'm Dominic Raab. Me.
Mr. Speaker, what I do know better is the central duty of any government is to keep the British people safe. There are now widespread reports that the...
She should not have to be shouting like this. Like, honestly, like... This is very uncomfortable listening.
Prime Minister did not accept warnings from our own intelligence services granting a Russian oligarch, the son and business partner of a KGB spy, a seat here in this Parliament. It shouldn't matter if such a warning was about a close personal friend of the Prime Minister. It shouldn't matter if he gave the Prime Minister thousands of pounds of gifts, and it shouldn't matter how much champagne and caviar he serves. There's no ifs or buts when it comes to the safety of the British people. So I ask the Deputy Prime Minister, can he guarantee that the Prime Minister never asked anyone to urge the security services to revise, reconsider or withdraw their assessment of Lord Lebedev of Hampton and Siberia?
It feels like she's saying, did anyone have concerns? Did anyone tell Boris Johnson about concerns they had about Lebedev? The other thing is, you notice the Tories are quieter than they usually are. It's very strange.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Also, why are these like geezers wearing masks, right, when no one else is? Like, do they have to or do they choose to? Because no one here is, and no one here is.
The suggestion she's making is sheer nonsense.
You know what that means, right? It's probably going to come out that something had come out about it, and you know, Boris Johnson may have ignored people. So I doubt it.
But if she wants to talk about national security, then I remind her that she and her shadow cabinet colleagues not so long ago wanted the honourable member for Islington North. Mr. Speaker, a man who wanted and talked about abolishing the army, pulling out of Trident, she voted...
here we go. She's going to go after Jeremy Corbyn.
...for that. Has there ever been a more ridiculous, reckless, naive moment to call for unilateral nuclear disarmament and pulling out of NATO? A Labour government would put at risk our security. We're doing everything we can to protect it.
Angela Rayner.
Okay, what the hell's going on with the mics here? Like, this is Luke Thomas levels of technical problems.
To NATO. And may I remind the Deputy Prime Minister that it was his Prime Minister in 2015 that said he wasn't sure if it was morally irresponsible to work with Putin. So I don't think he's on safe grounds there. Last week...
Don't forget Johnson's comments about tank warfare in Europe. That's another point. Also, the fact that the Tories have consistently cut the military as well. That's a point she could raise. You gonna raise it, bud?
Mr. Speaker, my right honourable friend, the Leader of the Opposition, said that Britain should never again be at the mercy of a foreign dictatorship for our energy and fuel security. This week, the Prime Minister has gone cap in hand from one dictator to another on a begging mission to the Saudi prince to bail him out.
Hello, Giovanni.
Mr. Speaker, the government have had 12 years to end their reliance on foreign oil and invest in homegrown energy to secure our supplies. Their failure has left us all vulnerable, reliant on another murderous dictator to keep the lights on and pumps open.
I'm going to hear this question. If some people don't want... Somebody want to make a... If you want a little argument, I'm more than happy, because we can argue outside when you're there. But
argue outside? Are you asking for a fight, mate? What is this? Honestly, what a shambles this... What a shambles the House of Commons is. Argue outside? Like, that's something you say when you want to fight someone.
Moment, I need to get on. I want to hear the question. Angela Rayner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government benches have a choice. They could accept Labour's plan to save working families hundreds of pounds on bills funded with a one-off levy on the soaring profits of big energy companies.
See, this is where Labour can do well. If they go out and say, we have a plan to cut energy costs, we have a plan to do this. This is where Labour can do very well. They don't do it enough because they don't have a lot of plans. But this is one of them where they should be going full court press on this. But they're not, because they're a joke, to be honest.
So I ask the Deputy Prime Minister, is their only plan to keep on begging?
That was cold-blooded. That was cold-blooded right there.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, can I just gently say to the Honourable Lady that when she was campaigning, as the rest of them were, to make the Honourable...
Oh, here we go. Jeremy Corbyn.
Member for Islington North, Prime Minister. This Prime Minister was Foreign Secretary leading the response to the nerve agent attack.
No, he wasn't, bruv. He was skipping out on NATO meetings. There was a NATO meeting. He skipped out early, left his security, whatever unit, and then went partying. So that's a massive lie.
I hate to say it, you can't keep going back for 12 years as a defensive mechanism. What we want to do, I'll decide. Back for 12 years as a...
Was Foreign Secretary leading the response to the nerve agent attack.
I hate to say it, you can't keep going back for 12 years as a defensive mechanism.
What's he talking about? Is he attacking, like, the new Labour government?
What we want to do, I'll decide. Thank you. What I want you to do, Deputy Prime Minister, please, if we can try and stick to the agenda, I have a lot of people ahead of me who are desperate to get in without talking about history. How far we want to go back is one thing in passing.
I think the vast majority of the front bench have history degrees, so that's all they specialise in.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. When she was...
Order. Sir Desmond is not responsible for the opposition's policies. This is about the government. This is about questions to the Deputy Prime Minister. I'll put the questions and decide which are right. Deputy Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted just to point out, and I hope it's not ancient history, that the Prime Minister was, as Foreign Secretary, galvanising the response to the nerve agent attack in Salisbury.
No, he wasn't.
At the time where the honourable member, the former leader of the Labour Party...
Jeremy Corbyn, that's all they have.
Was siding with Putin against the UK. What did the Honourable Lady have to say on Sky News? He's a very strong leader. She can't wait for him to become Prime Minister.
Ha, 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 ha. Even, Ian Blackford does not look impressed.
Mr. Speaker,
Senora Speaker.
there is a war in Europe. There is a fuel energy crisis in Britain. Democracy is at risk. We must support the courageous efforts of President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people. These uncertain times require leadership with integrity. A leader that works with the security services, can be trusted to say the right thing for British diplomacy and provide security for the British people. Instead, Mr. Speaker, we have this sorry excuse of a government sat before us. They hike tax on 27 million working people while the super rich increase their wealth. They watch energy prices rise by over 50% while the companies enjoy profits they didn't even expect. And they cavort with Russian oligarchs in luxury villas while neglecting the security of the British people. And remember, Mr. Speaker, they
Isn't the speaker on that side?
started while the country was in lockdown and were unable to see their dying loved ones. Can the Deputy Prime Minister look the British people in the eye and really say this government is doing their best in their interest?
Okay, he's going to say world beating about Ukraine, something about Jeremy Corbyn, and I wonder what the third thing's going to be. Global energy crisis. Okay, that's my three. I'm guessing. Okay. Let's see if I can get all three.
Minister,
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'll tell you what this government, this Prime Minister have done.
We go.
1,000 Russian individuals sanctioned, a combined wealth $45 billion. The impact of the sanctions and the diplomatic effort that this Foreign Secretary and this Prime Minister have led, the ruble plummeting, the Russian stock market at
The
record
ruble's plummeting predominantly because of the Americans and the EU, I believe.
lows, doubled the interest rates. We've also showed...
That's not just us, buddies. That's an international effort.
We've also showed, Mr. Speaker, the big-hearted spirit of this government and indeed this nation, with the 5,500 visas granted.
5,500. Is that it? Is that it? Poland on some days are taking I think it's like 3,500 refugees on a given day. So that's a load of rubbish. 5,000 visas. Ugh.
Wanted to Ukrainians to come here, and also the humanitarian route, which has now got 100,000 sponsors applying to come to take Ukrainian families in these homes.
That's a load of rubbish, because you're asking for the British people to really help out here when it should be the government leading, not the public.
She's in her social media echo chamber. That's what this government is doing.
Oh, that was pathetic. That was honestly such a rubbish answer. This is why these two are on the B team, honestly. That was a joke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It was very good to see my right honourable friend visit the International Criminal Court earlier this week.
We'll go to about 1 o'clock.
Enduring difficulties with funding. Last year they had a $40 million shortfall in their budget because some participating states failed to meet their annual contribution. The International Criminal Court is only as good as the sum of its parts. So what steps can the government take to secure contingency funding to ensure that one day Russian military commanders in Ukraine can expect to stand trial for war crimes?
The International Criminal Court isn't that great anyways, because it doesn't have jurisdiction over a lot of countries, I believe the USA being one of them.
And honourable friends, bang on. The Assembly of States Party is looking at the arrears. I was in The Hague on Monday speaking to the prosecutor and the President of the Court. We will be coming forward with a voluntary package of financial and technical support, because now as they look at the situation in Ukraine, we want, and I think the whole House would want, Putin and his commanders to know if they continue with war crimes in Ukraine, they'll end up not just in the dock of a court, but behind bars.
We now come to the leader of the SNP, Ian Blackford.
Let's go, Ian. Let's go. Hopefully he's brought his A-grade material, because Rayner was really bad.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I welcome our 4 colleagues from the Parliament of Ukraine who are with us today? We all stand with them. Mr. Speaker, I've spent much of the last week trying to help the Scottish charity Dnipro Kids, established by fans of Hibernian Football Club, who've evacuated 48 children from orphanages in Ukraine and are desperately attempting to provide them with temporary sanctuary in Scotland. Mr. Speaker, there is a plane ready and waiting in Poland to bring these orphans to the UK on Friday, but that flight will leave empty without the necessary paperwork from the Home Office. The Polish authorities, Edinburgh City Council, the Scottish Government and the orphans' guardians are all working to bring these children to safety. I've worked with UK Government ministers to try and make this happen, and I want to commend Lord Harrington in particular for his efforts. But a week on, the Home Office is still proving to be the only obstacle in the way, and it risks leaving these children stranded. So I'm pleading with the Deputy Prime Minister, remove these obstructions before it's too late. Will he work with me and the Ukrainian authorities to guarantee that these 48 Ukrainian orphans will get on that plane this Friday?
That's a great point from Ian Blackford, that everyone's ready to go here apart from the Home Office. Massive credit to him for that, and for him for bringing that up, and to the Scottish Government, and I think it's the Aberdeen Council who are actually trying to help. Massive credit to them. At least some government officials, at least smaller ones, are trying to do their bit.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Can I thank the honourable gentleman for all he's doing? This is a heart-rending situation. We want to do everything we can. Of course, There are a range of issues in this case, including the wishes of the Ukrainian government on where orphan children should go and should be living, whether any necessary permissions have been sought from the Ukrainian and/or Polish governments. This isn't actually about bureaucracy, it's about genuine safeguarding issues, but I certainly want to work with him in the best interests of those children.
Ian Blackford.
I'm asking the government to do just exactly that, because we've been working with the Ukrainian and Polish authorities. We have their support. We need the Home Office to give us the paperwork that will make that happen. Because, Mr. Speaker, this one case goes to the heart of the failure in the UK government's response to the biggest refugee crisis in Europe since World War II. It is deeply concerning that it's taken the intervention of several ministers of state, letters to multiple European ambassadors, and the fear of this case being exposed in the chamber to try and force movement in an urgent case involving almost 50 vulnerable children. Even where there is the will, it seems that simply there is no way that the Home Office can get involved. I shouldn't have been sending letters to the authorities in Ukraine and Poland. The Home Office should have been doing it. If all these powerful people can't make it happen, what hope do all the other children fleeing this awful war have of finding sanctuary in the UK? The United Nations are now estimating that almost 1 child a second is becoming a refugee from the war in Ukraine. These 48 children will not be the last who need sanctuary and safety. Surely the Deputy Prime Minister agrees it shouldn't have taken this level of intervention and pressure for the Home Office to do the right thing by these children.
I mean, again, you know, if it's the case that Ian Blackford's telling the truth here, which I have no reason to really doubt him, if it's just the Home Office that are causing the problems here, this one shouldn't be a hard fix. And, you know, I can't see Priti Patel on the front bench. Normally she's on Johnson's right. So, you know, you can't address her directly, but, you know, dude's got to, you know, finally do something, figure things out here, because this is ridiculous.
Minister.
Well, can I just say to him, it's very important that the proper international practices on safeguarding are followed. I know he appreciates that.
That's what he's trying to push the Home Office to do, big man.
We're keen to find out if family reunion options with Ukrainian family in the region have been considered.
They're orphans, pal. Like, yeah, they're going to have external family, but we have no idea where those family are. Maybe you bring them to the UK, they settle here, and once the war is over, you can reunite them with family. Maybe that's the best option, because you have no idea where the rest of the families are. The dudes might be fighting in the war still. The other families may be struggling to get accommodation in neighbouring states like Poland. Maybe the best thing to do, and I'm no expert in this field, is to get them out of, get them out of Poland, bring them to the UK, get them settled here with foster families, and once the war is over, you can look at reuniting them with their families. Big man.
Also know, can you just listen for a second, because it's important.
And you bloody listen, you idiot. Not you, Ian Blackford.
We also know that many children...
Big man, big vein head, yeah? Listen, if it's the Home Office that are causing the problem, maybe you should look at bringing these kids to the UK. I thought we're meant to be number one when it comes to helping Ukraine. Evidently not. Stupid vein head.
State care in Ukraine have family members in the region for safeguarding and well-being of the children.
Yeah, bruv, they have family members in the region who are also refugees. How are they going to help those kids out when they can hardly help themselves?
That must also be considered. More broadly...
How long is it going to take you to consider it? Because it's taken you a week.
He raises the issue about refugees and children on top of the measures that I've already mentioned. We're making plans for the arrival of 100,000 Ukrainian children through the Education Secretary in our schools. And I pay tribute to the Health Secretary for bringing Ukrainian children suffering from cancer over to this country to receive the vital treatment they need.
That's great, but it's not really relevant though, is it? And this is what happens when you cut social services this much. You struggle to help when there's a crisis. Which, you know, it feels like the UK is in an infinite crisis. Where's the Minister for Colombia, Michael Gove? Oh, mate, that's funny. That is funny, Artie.
Thank you,
Mr. Speaker.
Minister for Colombian snow.
British servicemen and women have served under Operations Kibrit and Orbital since 2015, working with the Ukrainian armed forces and helping to shore up the eastern flank of NATO, which is now more important than ever. Would the Deputy Prime Minister join with me in putting on the record the gratitude of this House and consider what recognition we can give them for their service and for their role in history?
Deputy Prime Minister.
She's absolutely right. She's totally right. to pay tribute to the professionalism, the dedication, the sacrifice of our armed service men and women every day to defend this country. She'll know that recognition for all military operations is kept under continuous review, and I know that the Defence Secretary will have heard her very compelling suggestions.
Stephen Farr.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I first of all wish you and the entire House an early happy St Patrick's Day? Now,
well done, bruv. Like, what was honestly? These half these people are clowns. Honestly,
a 3.1% increase to universal credit and other benefits set by the government last September, but inflation is now pushing 7%. The Joseph Rowntree Foundation, Trussell Trust, and many other organisations have highlighted the real jeopardy that millions of people are now facing from a real terms cut in the level of benefits, and other measures from the government simply don't compensate for that. So surely it's not tenable for the government to stick so rigorously to a decision taken 6 months ago, whenever circumstances have changed so radically since then.
All right, fair enough. He's made a good point there about inflation and benefits, so I'll give him a pass. Wait, who's 28?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank the honourable gentleman? He's right about the cost of living challenge, not least with the war in Ukraine. The government and the Chancellor have already put in place a £20 billion package across this year, £9 billion to help with energy bills, the rest to deal with the wider cost of living issues. That includes raising the national living wage. On UC that he mentions, we're giving nearly 2 million families an extra £1,000 a year. The Kickstart scheme.
£1,000 a year, that, okay, who's going to receive that? And then, have you seen the cost of energy bills? They're going to go up by potentially hundreds of pounds each month, and then you've got food bills and fuel bills and other things. So yeah,
increasing the personal tax threshold by over 50% since 2010. We're doing everything we can, and of course we'll keep the cost of living issues under constant and regular review.
Gareth Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With multinationals scaling back Russian operations and local businesses stepping forward with offers of jobs and equipment, once again, British businesses are responding at a time of great challenge. Will the Deputy Prime Minister join me in thanking all those businesses across Lincolnshire who have offered support? And
honestly, who gives a damn? Who cares? Oh, look, there's businesses giving support in the UK, and will the right honourable gentleman support me and the people of Lincolnshire, because they also have stepped up, because businesses want to make money and help people sometimes. Me, honestly,
Can he outline how the government may be able to connect those offers of support with the Ukrainians in most need?
You could have saved us about 30 seconds there, pal, if you just said, oh yeah, there are businesses looking to help out. Can the government connect these businesses with the relevant parties in order to get this stuff sorted? Instead, I was like, can you praise the people of my little area here, because they've done what other people have done in the country. Honestly.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Can I thank my honourable friend, and I do join him in thanking all those businesses, but also all the charities and the individual families up and down the country who have shown the big-hearted traditions that make this country so great. He will be
relying on charity because the government won't, support what like they're meant to.
Aware, of course, of the new sponsorship scheme. We've had overall 100,000 sponsors apply, and of course working with businesses is particularly valuable because we know that there's huge value not just in terms of allowing those that come here to get access to work, but it also helps them to integrate into our society as confident members of our community.
Matt Weston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure the Deputy Prime Minister will agree with me that when it comes to judging...
I've never noticed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure the Deputy Prime Minister will agree with me that when it comes to judging a person, it's often done by the company that they keep. When it comes to tennis, when it comes to tennis, the Prime Minister enjoys the company of and backhanders of Lyubov Chernikin.
Wow, we've got a funny man here. We've got a comedian. We've got a funny man.
When it came to celebrating the election victory, the Prime Minister prioritised the party hosted by the former KGB agent Alexander Lebedev. He has a great many others, such as Viktor Fedotov and Alex Temerko as friends. Can he therefore tell us what first attracted the Prime Minister to the billionaire Russian oligarchs?
Ha 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 ha.
I wasn't quite sure where he was going at the beginning of his question, but what I can tell him, of course, the Prime Minister is not just a very social individual.
Look at this man. He can't keep a straight face, can he? He cannot keep a straight face when he's lying.
He wants this country to be open, outward-looking to the world. But we were the government, and he was the...
Open and outward to Russian oligarchs, and people have committed various crimes in order to get the wealth that they have. Okay.
Prime Minister, and I was the Foreign Secretary, that introduced the Sergei Magnitsky sanctions.
The Magnitsky, as far as I know of, have barely done anything because they're not being enforced. The Americans have done far more with their version of the Magnitsky Act than we have. Just putting a law in place isn't enough if it's not enforced.
Human rights sanctions, asset freeze and visa bans, not just on Russians where we have evidence of wrongdoing, but also the murderers of Khashoggi, also the persecutors.
That's why we're going cap in hand with the people who ordered the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, right? The Saudis. That's why we're going cap in hand to them for more oil.
Of the Myanmar minority and many others. It was this government, not the Labour Party.
Obviously, you're in charge, you dickhead. You're the one in charge, you idiot. Labour haven't been in charge for 12 years. Obviously, you're going to be the ones leading the sanctions on Russian oligarchs. Oh my God. Wow. Oh my... What a prick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The eyes of the
That is a
world
very reflective jacket.
are rightly focused on Putin's evil invasion of Ukraine.
Yeah.
But there is still a humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan.
And Yemen.
And I welcome the fact that the UK government is hosting a pledging conference later this month for that crisis.
Ooh, pledge,
and can
pledge.
my right honourable friend ensure that we also keep education for those poor children on the agenda?
Yeah. I mean, okay, they're going to pledge stuff, but it's not really going to achieve a lot. I mean, this is the reason why I never watch PMQs, because I've put up with this nonsense. That's why I didn't watch it. You got Donald Trump Jr. over here as well.
Deputy Prime Minister.
She's absolutely right, and we will keep the focus on Afghanistan and the many other conflicts around the world.
You dropped the ball on Afghanistan. That's why you were demoted. Did you forget that, big man? You were out. You know, the sea was closed. Apparently, you were out in a resort in like Cyprus or something. You know, I don't know how you paid for that, but fair enough, you did somehow. Did you forget that you were getting grilled in select committees? You were getting bullied. You were demoted because of it. Did you forget?
That need our support. I can tell her that particular conference will provide specifically support for access to girls' education, a long-standing priority of the Prime Minister. And I would also just point out that we've doubled our humanitarian aid to Afghanistan for the financial year to £286 million.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
£286 million when you've got a massive country. I don't know what the population of Afghanistan is. I'm guessing it's quite sizable. I don't know how far £286 million is going to stretch.
Appeasing murderous despots is never going to be the route to security of energy supply. So wouldn't it make more sense for the Prime Minister to be here talking to UK energy industries? Shouldn't he be talking to renewable energy developers about what they can do to bring their product on stream faster and quicker? And shouldn't he also be speaking to our own offshore oil and gas industry about what they can do in the here and now to improve security of supply and to assist in the journey towards net zero?
I think the issue is that in the immediacy we need help. So I just wish it wasn't the Saudis he went to, honestly. I wish it was like to OPEC, the broader group, or I don't know who else he could go to. But, you know, we do need to push for renewable energy, but that's going to take time. Nicola Sturgeon kind of bullied Douglas Ross over it, saying it will take years to, you know, increase certain facilities in, I think it's North Sea oil and things like that. So I don't... We should be pushing for more green energy, definitely, things like tidal, etc. But it's just a joke. Why are these people on their phones? What are you doing?
Yes, he was doing that on Monday evening, I can tell the honourable gentleman. And now it's Wednesday, and yes, he's out in Saudi Arabia, closing a £1 billion investment deal, creating 700 jobs in the north in renewable energy. I think the Lib Dems need to keep up.
Duncan Baker.
Happened on Monday, big man. That was only 2 days ago.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. North Norfolk is a rural constituency, and many residents rely on their cars to get around, and they heat their homes by using heating oil. The price of crude oil may have come down in the last few days, but the petrol pumps are still going up, and I've had constituents who are quoted £2 a litre for heating oil. This not only affects working families, but pensioners in rural areas who are on a fixed income. Can I ask that the Deputy Prime Minister does everything he can to make sure that in the spring statement we address these problems for really, really rural constituencies that are getting the double whammy of these crippling costs?
If only they didn't vote Tory, huh?
Prime Minister.
My honourable friend's absolutely right. He knows that we have got a £20 billion package this year dealing with the cost of living, £9 billion of
Again,
it.
20 billion, 9 billion, big figures here, but where's that money going? Where's that money going? How much is that per person? Who is it going to? Why? Like, that's what we need to know here. Stop quoting me big figures, because evidently it's not enough.
Focused on energy prices, the issues that he talks about for his constituency, but I think up and down the country are I think, very well made, and I know the Chancellor will have heard his suggestions.
Jeff Smith.
And what's he going to do with said suggestions? He's not even here. The Home Secretary aren't there. Sunak isn't there. Where's the front bench at?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister is visiting Saudi Arabia, and as usual, we are told there will be frank, private discussions with the Saudis on their human rights record. But in the light of the state murder of Jamal Khashoggi, in the light of the brutal executions of 81 men at the weekend, why does the Deputy Prime Minister think that the UK's representations on human rights are so ineffective? And what more will we do to make the Saudis behave ethically?
I mean, by us buying more oil from the Saudis, not really going to help, is it? Comment, why don't we just print the cash up to solve the inflation crisis? Yeah, if we do that, that's going to cause hyperinflation.
Can I thank the honourable gentleman? Can I just say to him, when I was Foreign Secretary, and I went to Riyadh twice, I know that
when I was Foreign Secretary,
Prime Minister will be raising these issues again. We talked about the women's rights defenders. He says we've been ineffective. They've all been released. We talked about Ralph Badawi, the author and critic. He was recently released. He mentions Jamal Khashoggi. We applied, I think we're one of the first to apply, asset freeze and visa bans on those responsible for his murder. So we are...
They're not going to come to the UK, you donut. I doubt they have many assets in the UK as is. Unless you're going to do an asset freeze and a visa ban on the Prince of Saudi Arabia.
Outward an international country. That is what Britain's role is in the 21st century, but we will never allow our moral red lines to be blurred.
I mean, they have been blurred, though. You're going cap in hand to a man who had a journalist murdered in a foreign country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The high inflation is caused, I think, because of rising energy costs. The import and export checks, they're having a big impact on this. I think those are the predominant causes of it anyways.
Once said about the Polish people, you may swallow the Pole, but you will never digest them. I think that power...
What the fuck is
you
this?
May swallow... Mr. Speaker, Rousseau once said about the Polish people, you may swallow the Pole, but you will never digest them. I think...
What? Rousseau? Who? You may swallow the pole. Oh my... These people are just the fakest intellectuals I've ever seen in my life. Like Solid Snake said, you can find love on the battlefield. I can't remember his exact quote. This is just ridiculous, honestly. Said swallow the pole. That just sounds I give up.
I think that powerful quote says so much for how the Polish people have stood up robustly and strongly against aggression over the years, and also about their steadfast support right now for their close and dear allies, the Ukrainian people. In Ipswich, we've had 3 lorries going from Ipswich to Lviv in support of the Ukrainian people.
You know what's great about that? I guarantee you some of those lorries would have been stuck at the Dover-Calais crossing because of this government. So,
will the Deputy Prime Minister outline
Oops, I want to get rid of that.
Steps the government to take to support our close allies Poland as they take an unprecedented numbers of refugees, and of course, whilst they have their own security concerns in relation to Russia.
Deputy Prime Minister.
He's absolutely right, and I pay tribute to not just his constituents, but the Polish community in particular, and of course for their big-hearted support for the people of Ukraine. And of course, as a leading donor, I think the second largest donor to Ukraine, we've committed a further £174 million in aid, bring our total to £400 million. But that will also support those countries in the close proximity to Ukraine, their neighbours, and first and foremost will be Poland.
Justin Mathers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the 28th of April 2018, when he was Foreign Secretary, the Prime Minister is reported to have attended a party at a castle in Italy where he met a former KGB officer. Now, this was just weeks after the Salisbury poisonings and immediately after he attended a NATO summit on Russia.
That was Carol Cadwallader who I think released that story.
If that is not astonishing enough in itself, it is also reported he travelled there without any security detail or officials present. So will there now be an investigation into what sounds like a complete failure of national security?
Oh, well, you see, Boris Johnson's just a very sociable guy.
He's talking total nonsense. I don't have anything to add to what I've already said.
Oh, so he's saying the story's a lie then? Poor Carol, apparently her journalism isn't very good because Dominic Raab has just said she lied.
In addition to my constituents' concerns,
in subtraction to my constituents' concerns,
for Ukraine, they're also concerned about planning policy. I wrote to the Prime Minister in October 2019 about the threat to the Goring Gap. It's against government policy, it's against public interest for every green field that's a strategic gap to be built on, and inspectors made a decision which would wipe away the planning powers of every local council in the country. Can I ask if the Prime Minister will see me and if the government will revoke this inspector's mistaken decision?
Can I thank the Honourable Gentleman? Can I also, I empathise as someone with a massive proportion of green belt in my constituency on the frustrations I think honourable members across the House feel with some planning decisions that are made. However, once a planning decision is final, it can't be challenged unless it's successfully challenged in the courts.
Stephanie Peacock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last year, 255 children and young people were admitted to Barnsley Hospital for self-harm. That is 15 times...
Hillary, get off your phone or get out of the house.
...the national average. This is a public health crisis. Of children and young people. Mr. Speaker, last year, 255 children and young people were admitted to Barnsley Hospital for self-harm. That is 15 times the national average. This is a public health crisis. So will the Deputy Prime Minister ask the Health Secretary to meet with me and healthcare providers from Barnsley to immediately respond to this mental health crisis?
It's a great point from her that, you know, apparently there is a rise in self-harm, at least within her constituency, and that needs to be urgently looked at, you know, what's going on there. Maybe because of COVID, no pantomimes. Yeah, it feels like that. The energy's gone into politics. Dominic Raab is 32. Nah, get out of here. No way Dominic Raab's 32. Who's 32? The scruffy guy. The Russians have compromat on Johnson. I don't think they have compromat on Johnson. And it's not Halloween, but that choice of dress was interesting, to say the least. Not very work professional. I don't know, actually. I don't know what dresses anymore. Or the way people dress. I mean, most of the front bench look fine.
But a huge amount into both mental health and...
Toots can only wear suits, unfortunately.
Wider the NHS budget, not just on COVID, but to respond to the wider issues. I will certainly make sure in relation to the specific issue that she raises that an appropriate health minister will see her.
Dr. Julian
That's
Lewis.
great. Are they going to give the funding that constituency will need? Probably not.
Are any oligarchs with UK passports on our sanctions list?
I mean, he's going to say, I can't tell you that because security or something.
Can I thank the chair of the ISC? I think I would have to let the Foreign Secretary and the Foreign Office check carefully and respond to him in due course.
Stephen Timms.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 3 weeks ago, the chair of the UK Statistics Authority, Sir David Norgrove, wrote to the Prime Minister to point out that his repeated assertion that employment is now higher than it was before the pandemic is incorrect. Yesterday's employment statistics show 840,000 fewer self-employed people now than before the pandemic, and that overall employment is 580,000 lower. Does the Deputy Prime Minister agree that truthfulness is vital to trust in our democracy? Does he accept the correction from Sir David Norgrove?
Okay, this is going to be interesting. This is a great question for Dominic Raab. Let's see how he handles this one.
Look, of course, we listen very carefully to David. But what I would say to the honourable gentleman is actually, he points to the data yesterday. It showed that unemployment has fallen below 4%, is back at pre-pandemic levels, and is being termed a remarkable success from everyone to the Resolution Foundation. He talks about the truth. There's one golden truth, and that is whenever there is a Labour government in the past, unemployment has always been higher when they left office, when they started. Mr. Speaker,
I mean, okay, whatever, but that doesn't even make sense, because the last Labour government only had two and a half years to deal with the Great Recession, so that doesn't even make sense. I can't speak for the other Labour governments, but that one's a really dumb point. Also, unemployment isn't the end-all and be-all of economics.
That's the jobs guarantee you get with Labour.
Yeah, you've got record job vacancies under you, pal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have now provided more than 3,000 anti-tank weapons, training and other military support to Ukraine, alongside crushing financial sanctions on Russia and more bilateral assistance, humanitarian assistance aid than any other country. But can my right honourable friend confirm that we will continue to deliver?
I don't want to comment too much on appearances because I'm ugly, so I'm not going to go there too much. Yeah, I mean, Rob's just an idiot.
Further military aid and support, and with that we will supply the Starstreak anti-aircraft missiles necessary to destroy Russian jets.
My honourable friend is absolutely right. We've delivered over 3,600 anti-tank missiles, weapons. We'll also be sending consignment of the Javelin anti-tank missiles, and we are indeed, as he says...
Well, I didn't know the UK had Javelin missiles. I thought that's just an American thing.
...exploring the donation of Starstreak anti-air missiles.
Dan Carden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's welcome that Ukrainians seeking asylum in Britain will have the right to work and access to public services. We should always offer sanctuary to those fleeing persecution. People who come to Britain to make it their home, no matter where they're from or the colour of their skin, make a hugely positive contribution to our society and economy, if they're supported to do so. So how can the government now justify not extending the same welcome and the same rights, including the right to work, to all people seeking asylum in Britain?
Probably going to say something about other safe countries and blah, blah, blah. Stuff like that, really. I reckon he's going to say something dumb. He's going to say safe countries.
Deputy Prime Minister.
He's right that we have a strong tradition, and we've stepped up to the plate with the Hong Kong British National Overseas.
I mean, we really haven't with that. That's not going great from what I've heard.
Citizens, with Operation Pitting, which brought 17,000 back, and we will go further and beyond the normal rules when there is a crisis, as we've seen in Ukraine. He's
what
absolutely
about the crisis we've seen in Yemen and Afghanistan, then?
Right about what he said in relation to the current scheme. Those coming here, the Ukrainians can live, work and access benefits. They can stay for 3 years with leave to remain. And I'm proud, and the whole House should be proud, not just of the big-hearted approach of this government, but also the 100,000 British sponsors who've come forward and said they will open their homes to those refugees.
Mr. Speaker, can I ask my right honourable friend that as the brilliant Ukrainian people
really get some exercise in, standing up and sitting down all the time,
fight and die on a daily basis for their rights of freedom and democracy, it's important, therefore, that we make something very clear, and I wonder if he would do this. They have asked for membership of NATO for a significant period of time, and NATO has chosen not to give it to them. My concern now is no matter what they decide, it remains their absolute right as a free nation and a free people to make such an application in the future, and, noticing that Finland is talking about being a member, that we treat them in exactly the same way as we would an application from Finland.
That's a really dumb point on multiple fronts. From what I've read, NATO can't accept a member that's currently involved in a conflict, which Ukraine was evidently involved in a conflict since 2014. So that doesn't make any sense. Also, with them accepting Finland, the Russian invasions of Finland have been an absolute disaster from Joseph Stalin. So would I want to see Ukraine as part of NATO if that's what they want? Yes. If Finland want to join NATO, that's fine. But his point about accepting Ukraine's application just like they would Finland's, or treat them the same, doesn't make any sense, considering that parts of Ukraine are occupied by Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine. So it doesn't even make any sense. That's not happening in Finland. This guy, man.
Can I thank
Ian Duncan Donut?
My right honourable friend, and he will have heard what President Zelensky has said overnight in relation to this. But one of the things that we've always been crystal clear as a government is that if there is a diplomatic off-ramp, and I have to say we have a heavy measure of scepticism about whether Putin could ever fulfill such a deal, but if there is, it has to be done with the will and the volition of the Ukrainian president and the Ukrainian people.
That's just a massive non-answer, isn't it?
We now come to Carol.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituent is a popular parish priest in Glasgow. Originally from Nigeria, he became a British citizen last year and applied for his first British passport last summer. On his naturalisation certificate issued by the Home Secretary, it includes his title, Reverend Father, under his name. This is causing the Passport Office unexplained difficulties, and 7 months on, he's still waiting for his passport. Can I ask the Deputy Prime Minister to look at this case as a matter of urgency? His mother is extremely ill in Nigeria. He needs to get his passport to visit her.
Okay, I think what's happened is they put his title as his name on his passport by the sound of it. That doesn't seem like the hardest thing in the world to fix, especially given his circumstances. Hopefully they get that resolved, but I don't have a lot of faith in the Patel office.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Can I thank the Honourable Lady for raising that case? It sounds very sensitive. I will make sure a Home Office Minister looks at it as a matter of urgency.
That finishes questions.
All right.
I'll just let the room clear and then I'll do a punch one.
By police.
Can
I ask, have you had any notification from the Home Secretary, the Policing Minister or the Safeguarding Minister that they intend to respond to the very disturbing independent safeguarding report that was published yesterday?
I've got a video coming out at 1:15, so we'll probably go until about 10 past, to be fair.
Today, that outlines the deeply disturbing circumstances in which a child was strip searched.
Oh, I read about that story. That's horrible. That's absolutely insane what the Met Police did to that poor girl, honestly.
In the most degrading way by police in her school, with profound and distressing consequences for the child involved. The report is clear that this should not have been allowed to happen. It is extremely distressing that it did. And it raises very serious questions about safeguarding, about policing, about training, guidance, about racism, and about protection for children. And it has recommendations for both the Home Office and the Education Department too. In these very troubling circumstances...
See, I'm not going to lie, you would be correct.
Has the Speaker had any notification that any minister is planning to respond to this report?
Can I first of all say I'm very grateful to the Right Honourable Member for giving notice of the point of order. The issue she's raised is a very serious one, and I'm sure she's correct that all members will be concerned by it, including myself. I have not had notice of a statement. However, as the Right Honourable Member is aware, various ways in which the issue can be raised, I'm sure that she and other members will pursue the issue. But I also recognise that the benches of government will have heard, and quite rightly, we do need an update to this action.
That's great and all, but what's going to happen? The Met Police have a history of just causing absolute problems. Their actions were found, I think, illegal in the Sarah Everard vigil. So what's going to happen here? What's going on with the Met Police? Because Sadiq Khan has, from what I've read, told the current Met Police Commissioner, Cressida Dick, he doesn't have any confidence in her. So who the hell is going to come in and reform it?
First up, point of order. Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And the Honourable Lady is absolutely right. It seems that neither the parents nor the teachers were involved in that. And I share her concerns, as others do, to ensure that if this happens here, it doesn't happen in any other police forces across the United Kingdom as well. So I just, again, endorse what you said, but Mr. Speaker, just to see, and can I ask the question through you, were the parents notified? Were the teachers notified? It seems that they weren't.
Unfortunately, I'm not answerable for the question, a very important question, but I have not got that information. I can assure the honourable member if I had, I would have answered it.
Surely, Priti Patel should be here to answer these questions, not the goddamn Speaker of the House.
Right, we now come to the 10-minute rule, Bill. And Dr.
Oh, crap. I actually don't know where to go from here. Parliament. Live. Okay, is this still going?
And demonstrate.
I don't know where to go from here. I guess we'll have to call it here. Normally, it just goes on longer. Normally it doesn't just cut off like that. I'll try Parliament TV. Is that still going live?
Before we come to apply.
Oh no, I think we're done out. We're out of luck. I think we're done out here, guys. I've got a video coming out in about, let's see, in about quarter past 1. So yeah, just give that a watch if you can, if you'd be so kind. But probably best if I call the stream here. This is kind of upcoming topics that I've got coming out. So yeah, keep an eye out. This one especially. The judges slapped down Unionist challenge to the Northern Ireland Protocol. That one should be good. Yeah, that video is going to come out in about 13 minutes or so. So yeah, hopefully you guys get a chance to watch it. That's me done for the day. I'm hoping to find a stream that goes longer, but apparently after PMQs, Parliament falls asleep, according to these streamers anyways. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.